Ok. Buongiorno, merci beaucoup. Ringraziamo il comitato organizzatore per averci accolto e averci permesso di presentare il nostro lavoro. Avremmo potuto farlo in francese o in italiano, ma per essere sicuri che tutti capiscano, il nostro film sarà presentato in inglese. Therefore, now I can move to the presentation. So to go very shortly, this is the result of about 2 years work in a very short overview of 20 minutes, connecting early Minoan scripts with other important elements, which we will show later. So first of all, well, you have the first slide about my activities, but it's not relevant for the moment. But if you're interested, you can look into our pages. Then I would like to present our colleague and very esteemed friend, Professor Francesco Perono Cacciafoco, whose interests are quite connected to ours and who decided to support the research we have been doing on Minoan scripts. Now, we go to the Minoan linguistics and Anatolian Aegean languages. So the main objectives of our short conference paper are the following. First, a short overview on Cretan hieroglyphs and linear AB script. Then an analysis of current works on Minoan tablets. 3 examples of Cretan Bronze Age inscription and presentation of their lexical specificities. 4 Proto-Greek and Western early Anatolian dialects. And 5 polysemic and plurisyllabic visual scripts of Cretan Bronze Age. Obviously, in 20 minutes, we cannot overview all of it, but I will try to show some specific examples and methods which can help us currently in the task we set. Do you see the slides? Yes?
Yes.
Good. Okay. So now the 4th slide. Why Cretan Bronze Age scripts are valuable and still partially unsolved? Well, first of all, linear A tablets and Cretan hieroglyphic inscriptions are not exactly catalogued the way they should, and this complexifies the attempt of a synthetic study of its sign and the lexical combination. Second, most scholars or researchers try to decipher linear A tablets as if it were an isolated language, and excluded de facto the possibility of external influences and mutual lexical exchanges, and this is something we would like to try to show that it has to be different. C, our approach differs on some aspects, and we hope our work will contribute to a deeper exchange on the Minoan scripts and potentially solve some of the syntactical and morphological issues posed by linear A and Cretan hieroglyphs. Now, a visual comparison with parallel cultures of the same region. Well, we had the Egyptian hieroglyphs, cuneiform with various scripts, Ugaritic, Babylonian, Hittite, and linear Elamite. We have Cretan linear A and B sharing interstitial lexical parallels with Anatolian. Egyptian and connections must be explored. Third, Cretan hieroglyphs show us an interesting development of a composed visual and meaning-oriented conception of writing, when Zoko linear A displays many variations between syllabic and visual signs, allowing us to reconstruct some paths of Cretan Aegean communication skills. Then, the Phaistos disk, a marvelous artifact and a potential key for further keys or Cretan early Anatolian influence. The Phaistos disk is almost a unique case, except if taking into account 2 over Cretan unique text preserves on seals. Therefore, a completely objective assessment of decipherment properties is far from certain. However, we think there is a solid chance that the earliest Cretan seals are actually the key to positive and factual evaluation of the Phaistos disk, and we will show shortly why. C, a lexical sign list for Cretan seals with all occurrences and position variation plus parallels in layer A and B truly fails, but we are currently working on it. Now, 6. The Phaistos disk and Cretan seals, short but effective illustration, at least I hope. So we do have 2 important Cretan seals, one which is very famous with the image of a cat, but we will come back to this in a moment. And we have another important Cretan seal, actually a huge text, actually. And if you see the combination, we see that many signs are actually repeating themselves, especially here the section F and the section G. We will come back to this. So it is our point of view that actually we can read those two parts. First with the feet as pod, then the ne has this linear B, the way here as the way in S sign in linear B, and the ya. So pod ne we ya, podnia, podnia. So the mistress. But, and it's important, we also would like to show that we can include the cat, because the cat was read in Egyptian meow, me. So this will be mi, ne, we ya, minos. Well, now we go back to the next slide, which is actually the main combination and more precise details in Olivier and Godard, 1996, of CMS 693, coming from the CMS of Heidelberg. And you can definitely see that the cat is in the middle, and that makes sense with the translation we gave. And therefore, we will have po, ne, we, ya, clockwise, and then mia, ne, ya of Minos. And obviously, we will have on the other side the tarune. In other words, Minoia, in that case, the cat goddess, also associated to Minos as mistress of bees, yes, is actually not far from Beset, the feasible aspect of the goddess Sermet. And on the figure of cartonnage in scripts, we are not, of course, the only one who has this feature. And we can just mention the important topic brought by Dr. P. Pastel, because obviously there are connections with a cat between Crete and Egypt, and now we showed why. If we go further, we can see that Proto-Greek actually appears in Minoan documentation, because as we saw with potneia, this is exactly the Homeric word we will have later with potna and potnia. In other words, goddess and gods through curious exchange important names, and those names are imported and exported. Places and location are also key towards a perfect understanding of the influence of Minoan into linear B, and vice versa. I will come back to it in a moment. Then we have the main linear B code decipherment grid. Yes, a very excellent presentation by Anna Judson in that case. And now we can compare, yes, with a linear B syllabic values. You can see here the way that we showed both the Cretan seal. You can also see the ya, which we explained before, just here. And we can see clearly the ne, which is the one we showed before. Now, just a short but interesting, important transition towards Crete's Bronze Age best partner and competitor, in other words, Egyptian kingdom and writing. Well, obviously, most of you should know about hieroglyphs, yes, and of course, it's an interesting and complex combination between phonetic writing on one hand, because men, yes, for example, but at the same time, semiotic writing, because obviously we have here, for example, the determinant of a god, yes, and then we can read them alternatively, phonetically, and semiotic. Well, actually, it's interesting because about Cretan hieroglyphs, we have a bit the same. And we want to insist about the trading, yes, coming through Egypt with the help of Cretan silos and vice versa. By the way, we want to show that Mrs. Glynis Fawkes, yes, she wrote excellent books for young people to explain more in detail the aspects of Bronze Age Crete and Egypt. And therefore, let's see if we can show the word boat, yes, which in classical Greece is an house, in Latin nevis, and actually from where it came from. Well, we think that we found the way, because here we have a shape of a ship, obviously, and we have 1, 2, 3, yes, main signs here, written on the seal, and actually we can read them, because the first one is ne, the second is a, yes, and then we have the way, you remember the way we have here, and wo, nea wo, in other words, naus, naus. And that's an excellent positive clue on the Cretan syllabic hieroglyphic values, which will be later into linear A, B grids. Then just a short cut on the Larnax, yes, because Larnax are very important about worshipping, yes, and ritual ceremonies and inscription, but also in iconography. And here you have a very beautiful example. And if you look more in detail, you will see the famous signs, the signs of Cretan hieroglyphs. Here we have curls, exactly like the way sign, yes, and we have the A. And you can see with the flowers, we have a ni. In other words, we have a visual identification as a bit similar to, for example, hieroglyphic system of a visual sign and its logographic value. Now it's come to the linear B scripts and interland connections, and it's important because we can look into the linear A documentation. Of course, some etymologies of certain nouns and verbs can be found to count these Cretan tablets, and we will see shortly how we can do this. For example, this tablet of SEZR4, yes, which is a serpentine libation table, has the following inscription with Atai, then 301 Waya, Ya in Wadza Paraniwi. While at first sight, clearly, this is not Egyptian, this is not Old Greek, but there is something which still reminds us of Anatolian. Well, we can see four main groups. The first one with Atai, then the part with 301 Waya, when we Yanuwaza as the third, and actually you see we have the dots which shows us that words are separated, and finally Painiwi. Well, actually, we know that for Old Greek and Egyptian, Nuwaza makes no sense. But in Western early Lewan, Waza means to request, to ask for, and especially to a god, request to worship, request to offer with Waza. The Ya is actually the later Greek ha, which means these, which pi in Luvian and Western Hittite means to bring, and ni or niwi is actually the actual Western Anatolian ending for I in the present or the past. Interestingly, we show the example that if we use Old Greek e pai de yon, we will have in Bronze Script e par free de o nui, e pas du nui. In other words, this linear A transcribed text explains the Western Luvian prayer because Atais to my father, we propose 301 DU because we have elements to pronounce the DU reading, but it's clearly Dios, so Zeus, so to my father Zeus, or equivalent of Diwa, Ya Niwaza, what he requested, Painiwi, I bought. And here we can see Atai Diwuya A in Waza Painiwi. Then the second one, kind of same motive, yes. We have also the Atai former with 300 Waya, but then we have the Yasuma 2, and we have the logogram of the olives. Well, actually, it's quite clear that Suma is the future classical Greek Soma, and therefore Suma 2 is actually Somata. And that means it's a plural form, which is actually the case because we have many olives. And therefore, we can see that the translation would be to my father Diuwaya, so the equivalent of Zeus, these shapes, these bodies of olives, yes, tasomata. Unakanasi clearly looks like Wanakasi, yes, and this would be the illustration of a point. I have to go short because unfortunately I have low batteries. Deciphering is of my own contribution, and we hope these elements are first steps for crits and seals, and we will develop more for the Department of Bern. For those interested, please contact us by email and WhatsApp, and we will produce a future hieroglyphic transcript for all interesting inscription. As we will say, Yain waza iwi diuwaya painise. A huge thank you to my wonderful wife, her wisdom and encouragements, and bring energy to go further. We thank you for flying on RLS on Crete and Ida's marvelous flight. Hope you enjoyed the flight, and now you can evaluate the landing. Thank you for your attention.
Questions? Yes. I'm wondering if you could comment on your work in relation to Brent Davis's. He's given distributional arguments that linear A represents a verb initial language. You've put the verb at the end of the sentence. He's argued it's not Indo-European. You've made it Indo-European, if I understood correctly. How do you account for those differences? I guess you can just say he's wrong.
If you just give me a moment, I will just search my cable for the computer, yes, and then I can answer. Just 1 second. I come back. Okay, I'm here. So basically, yes, what we propose is that when we speak of linear A, yes, it doesn't mean that it's one language. It means that it's a script. It's a script. It's a script. Do you hear me? Yes?
Yes, we hear it.
Okay. So it means that this is a script, linear A. By the way, we do not exactly like the term of linear A, because actually it's not the best way to explain the way how Cretan Bronze Age script involved, yes? But basically, yes, what it means is that we can evaluate linear A, yes, as a script, which started in Crete, yes, in the Bronze Age era. And at that time, the linear A script involved from hieroglyphic Cretan script. Therefore, the hieroglyphic Cretan script, yes, seems to have been used on two purposes. On one hand, to convey useful meaning for specific small objects, and on the other, to give a visual understanding of some words which were not always the same on Crete. For example, the word of Nawe that we showed, yes, with Ne-Awe, yes, this is clearly a future Proto-Greek word. And early Cretan Bronze Age, they decided that they had to show visually a boat to make understand that this is a boat. And the hieroglyphic linear A signs gave the phonetic value for that specific sign. It's one thing. Now, coming back to linear A, and fortunately in 20 minutes, I cannot show everything, but basically I have been working on different other tablets, including the so-called food listing tablets, yes, for example, about olives, wools, and so on and so forth. And if you look at them, closely, you will see that most of the words are actually either Proto-Greek related or Anatolian related. By the way, there is one tablet which is very interesting, which at first I could not make any sense of it because no words seem to be in Anatolian or Greek. And then I decided that, wait a minute, I know these endings. These are Egyptian endings. And this tablet actually gives a complete transaction from Egypt of different early possessions and belongings, including treasures and so on and so forth. And those words in Egyptian are transcribed by linear A writing. In other words, the linear A writing is only a way for Cretan people to transcribe, one, their language, second, phonetically, any word they were importing into their sailing system and trading activities. That explains why some of the words are actually future Proto-Greek, but that also explains why other words are Anatolian. Coming back to the Anatolian, we can see, unfortunately not clearly, completely, but we can see, yes, that the votive texts, so texts which are connected to religion, that those texts are not the same as the one connected to economic tablets. And if you see, and if you look into those votive tablets, yes, you will see, as I try to show, that those texts are actually related to Anatolian. Because if you use Anatolian word, then the entire text is perfectly translated. And it's not just once, it's every time that we have these words, every time they make sense by these translations. So that's why. Now, about the question of Indo-Eurasian connection or not, well, I do researches on Indo-Eurasian linguistics, but I'm quite open to the fact, that in earliest Bronze Age history in Crete, we had maybe one local language of a specific area, but we do not know which one. And we had many different incomers, including people from Ugarit, including people from Anatolia, and including people from Egypt. Those sailors and different cultures, they gradually mixed in within Crete, and that explains why many different artifacts in Linear A do not present the same patterns every time, because every time someone else wrote in Linear A the language he was speaking with. So if a person came from early Pylos and Mykenæ, he was speaking in Proto-Crete, as we saw with Nawea. But we have to move, so that's the shortest answer I can say for this. Thank you for the attention.